Meeting to order. Mary, read the roll, please.
Here.
Thompson,
Here.
Howard,
Here.
Ferris,
Here.
Garcia.
Here. Please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I'd like to welcome all those who are physically present with us, as well as those who are joining us through social media. So we move on to item number C, approval of the agenda. I would entertain a motion to accept the agenda as presented.
Make a motion.
Commissioner Ferris, have a second.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Bramba. Any questions, concerns? Mary, read the roll.
Yes.
Thompson,
Yes.
Howard,
Yes.
Ferris,
Yes.
Garcia.
Yes. Thank you. Move on to item number 2, public comment, and looks nobody assigned in. Not the Child Advocacy Center, the Airport Authority. Okay.
Well, they're under.
All right. Okay. All right. So we move on to item 4. No,
Three.
first, huh?
Three.
3. Okay. That's what I meant. So is there anybody there? Well, I asked over there, Mary said, oh, okay. So please take the microphone, state your name, and the nature of your business.
Hello, my name is Tony Burnett, and I'm with the Western Kansas Child Advocacy Center. Probably a lot of you don't actually know what we are, but we are an organization that fights child abuse. We began in 2004 in Scott City and have expanded to the point where we're now in 34 counties, including here. And since that time, we've helped over 5,000 children who have been suspected of child abuse. About 80% of the cases that we work is actually child sexual abuse. This is a time of the year when we come and we do budget requests, and so I'm requesting that Goodwin consider doing a budget allocation for us, a small amount of money, possibly up to $5,000 is what I'm requesting. In the last year, we did 17 forensic interviews in Sherman County. We're doing advocacy for 33 children, and we're doing therapy with 7 children. Those are the 3 core ways that we fight child abuse. We do interviews, advocacy, and therapy. The interviews are what you would expect. We have cameras set up in RVs so that we can interview the child, and that can become part of evidence. The Sheriff's Department is actually the organization that requests us be involved. So when the sheriff or DCF ask us to come, we set up a time, we park our RV, we interview the child, and at that point we make a long-term commitment with both the child and with local law enforcement. With advocacy and therapy, we can continue with a child for years because it's a very difficult type of abuse to overcome. It may take 5 years or longer for a child to deal with that. And then, of course, we are also committed to the local law enforcement because our interviewer is now part of the collection of evidence. And so if that case should go to court, then our interviewer is very likely to be subpoenaed, and they could come under attack from local defense. So that's what I'm here, and that's what I'm requesting. And this would be a request for 2022. I will say that the county does support us, and there are actually quite a few local in the area cities that do: Sharon Springs, St. Francis, Colby. So you wouldn't be the only one. Our organization in total has an operating budget of around $1.6 million. It costs us about $3,100 per child to deliver the services that we're doing. And so we would request you consider that.
How many counties do you service, sir?
34.
34. Mm-hmm.
I do have a letter and handout if you'd like it. If not, that's fine.
Sure, I think the commissioners would like to see that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any questions? Well, Helen? No. We will be going into budget discussion sometimes in June, and we'll definitely put you on the item and discuss and see where we're at.
Okay, well, thank you very much. If you have any other questions, get in touch with me. I'd be happy to answer them at a later time.
Thank you so much for
Thank
coming
you.
to us.
Thank you.
You bet. Right, we move on to item B, Airport Authority. You guys want to come up and state your names, Dustin, even though we know who you are, and John? But
Sure.
Yeah.
I'm Dustin Stevenson, President of the Airport Advisory Board.
And John Yost, I'm Vice Chair of the Airport Advisory Board.
And we're basically just here to provide an update on what all's going on at the airport. We've received some grants, as you guys are aware, over the last year or so, and we have a few projects that are moving forward. Currently, we're scheduled to start construction on May 17th on the taxiway for the Crossman runway, runway 523. And they're gonna do it in a couple phases as to not interrupt the spraying operations during their heavy season. So it'll be done in 2 phases, and we're gonna work with the sprayers to kind of coordinate when to do it, but it's gonna start on the east side most likely, and then move west for the second phase. And then the second larger project that we have just went out to bid on the 23rd, and the bid doesn't close until the 13th. And that's for the Crossman runway that's adjacent to that taxiway for runway 523. If you guys have been out to the airport, you've probably seen the kind of shape it's in, huge cracks. So that's going to be extended slightly and replaced with concrete instead of asphalt. Should last a lot longer. Those are the main 2 projects that we have going right now. There's additional things that are always in the works on a more long-term scale. We have to continually provide the FAA and the state and the county with an ongoing project list so that they know where we're headed over 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, kind of the outlay of what we expect to do. But that's currently where we're at.
And I think the bid for 523 is supposed to be open on the 13th.
Yep,
Is
on
that
the
right?
13th.
Okay.
So, and hopefully we'll have at least 4 or 5 options to review from different contractors. So,
it's my understanding that the lengthway is going to be 400 instead of 500, is that right?
4,000 instead of 3,800 on the
Yeah.
Crosswind runway.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's going to increase by 200 feet over what it currently is, and it'll be in a slightly different location. They have to shift one end of it just a little bit for obstacle clearance, but it's basically going to be in the same position as it's in now.
Helen, any
At a previous council meeting, there were some questions about, and we have on tonight's agenda, we have a couple of leases, sort of the philosophical approach to the leases. A penny a square foot and $100 a year. I guess the comment was they're not pretty inexpensive. Could you sort of address the philosophical approach?
Yeah, so airport leases in general are kind of a hot topic throughout the country, and it really just depends on where your airport currently sits from a development standpoint. In Goodland, where we're at, we're still trying to encourage development, promote growth, get more businesses here. If you provide a really short-term lease, you're not likely to attract too many people. It's a large investment to build at the airport. We want people to build. We want to bring those businesses in. We want to continually grow the airport if possible. And a lot of times it brings great businesses into the community, as well as other investors, potentially other air travel options in the future. A lot of great benefits for the community. But if the leases are either extremely short or too high in price, you can really deter that from happening. I personally can say, one of the reasons we moved out here was because of airport development opportunities in Colorado at the time were not very attractive, as well as raising a family out here as well. But as far as specific lease terms, I can't say exactly, obviously, we have city attorneys that draw up the specifics, but the longer the better as far as promoting growth and getting businesses here. I think from a cost standpoint, that it's really probably where it should be, is the cost structure base. Really where the city and the county benefits is probably from the taxes that it brings in long-term. We're taxed out there on the industrial base, which is, higher than the residential. So long-term, I think it really still benefits the community financially, even with a low-price lease and a long-term lease. So that would just be my general philosophy. John can speak to that as well.
I kind of agree on the pricing in term. I mean, to go do a big project, well, like Dustin did, and have a 5-year lease. I mean, you're sticking your neck out a little bit. I mean, it's never backfired on anybody. It's always getting renewed. But, I mean,
Well,
can't just go in and move.
That lease is just on the land.
Yes,
That's right.
that's exactly right.
And
The city's not got anything on the building.
Exactly, and the city still is able to tax on the building and everything like that, but, as a business owner, like John pointed out, you're really sticking out there. Most business owners around town, they own the ground they sit on. So whatever they invest, they own, and as a business owner at the airport, you're putting a lot of good faith in the local community and governmental organizations that you're gonna have a good working relationship, because if you don't, what do? You can't pick up that building and move it somewhere else very easily. And I think there's really no disadvantage to having a long-term lease, because if somebody finds that it's not working out, they can sell the building to somebody else, leases can be redrawn, business goes on. But in the meantime, it helps us develop that airport, build it out, create additional opportunities, a larger tax base, and so on. So,
I kind of agree with what John and Dustin are saying with respect. I look at it, one of the things is that, by creating an incentive like we do have out there, perpetuates economic development, such as what you came in and, you're going to build $400,000 or $500,000 hangar, say, hey, you want at least a good lease in order to be able to put that type of an investment in. So, I think it's as far as the lease is concerned, I've, read through them over and over, and they seem, good to me.
The more we have going on, the more the FAA sees, and the more.
more grants come in, more
Right.
activity, and
Yeah.
it's all
We'll
potential.
get some more going on.
Any question, guys, for the guys?
Thank you.
Hey, John, Dustin, thanks so much.
Thanks, guys.
All right, you bet. Okay, now we move on to item 4, consent agenda. Item A, April 19, 2021 commission meeting minutes. Item B, April 21st special work session meeting minutes. Item C, April 28th special work session meeting minutes. And item D, appropriation ordinances 2021-09, 2021-09A, and 2021-P09. And item E, the library board appointments. You've had the names for a couple of weeks. Lindsay Emick, Chelsea Howard, Catherine Franklin, and Jackie Shields. Any questions or concerns? I would entertain a motion to accept the consent agenda as presented.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Bromba and a second by Commissioner Ferris. Any questions or concerns? Mary Will.
Ferris,
Yes.
Howard,
Yes.
Thompson,
Yes.
Brumbaugh,
Yes.
Garcia.
Yes. Thank you. Move on to item 5, formal action. Item A, Topside Manor building permit. I believe Kevin is here to speak to us.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm Kevin Razier, President Public Building Commission / Topside Manor Board. And first of all, I greatly appreciate the commissioners, the department heads, and your staff. Your attendance is our groundbreaking. It's nice to see everybody there, so thank you. So, and also our foreman at the job, Max, has been quite appreciative of your staff and department heads getting stuff that he needs, utilities and things. So since he's been a lot of job sites, and you guys have done a great job here, so we appreciate that. Last time we was here, we kind of talked about some things, and one of the items was the building permit fees. And it was talked about, but I guess the city clerk said nothing was ever formally presented. So we're here tonight to see if we can get the building permit fees waived for this project. So we greatly appreciate the estimate.
Seems to me that it's something that we've done for other businesses. It's kind of standard that we do, especially good-sized, operations. So I don't know what the rest of the commission thinks. Everybody's got a voice, but I think with the amount of dollars that's being spent out there and the excitement that we're seeing where economic development is concerned in our community, I would have no issue waiving the building permits in the amount of $3,051. Guys?
I'm for it.
Yeah.
I don't have no problems with it.
Sounds good.
All right.
Motion.
I entertain a motion.
I'll move that we waive the building permit fees for Topside Manor in the amount of $3,051.
And I'll second.
I have a motion by Commissioner Thompson, a second by Commissioner Howard. Any questions or concerns? Mary, read the
Thompson,
Yes.
Howard,
Yes.
Ferris,
Yes.
Rumbaugh,
Yes.
Garcia.
yes. Thank
Thank
you,
you very
Kevin.
much.
Thank you.
If you guys got any questions in the future, look us up, and I'll be happy to come back to the group or talk to us individually. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks, Kevin. Okay, we move on to item B, Barker Airport lease. I'd like to welcome Dan Barker. Is he back there? There you are, Dan. Known Dan for quite a few years. Ellen, let you take it.
Mr. Barker came in 4 weeks ago, 6 weeks ago, 5 weeks ago, something like that, and indicated that he wanted to lease space to build a hangar. Going to start up his spraying business. Formerly owned a hangar at the airport. So we went back and looked at the lots available, determined that lots 1 and 2 were the place to put him, and we drew up a lease on the same terms, penny and $100. And if you go to page 2 of the lease, on the second page, where it says setback and site coverage, you'll see down on number A, it says side yard setbacks from property lines shall be 5-10 feet. That 5 is a typing error, should be 10 and 10, just so you have that correction. And so this is a pretty standard lease out at the airport, and we'd recommend approval.
Sounds good. I'll make a motion we approve this lease.
Second.
I have a motion by Commissioner Ferris, second by Commissioner Brombaugh. Any questions or concerns? Mary, through.
Howard,
Yes.
Rumbaugh,
Yes.
Thompson,
Yes.
Ferris,
Yes.
Garcia.
Yes. Thank you, Dan. All right, so we move on to item C, Global Medical Response Eagle Med Airport lease. Alan?
Can we remove that one? They did not get their signed contract back to us today, so we're going to push that to the next meeting.
Okay. All right. So we move on to item D, House and Rehabilitation Applications. Al?
At the, several weeks ago, 2 weeks ago, we asked, or several weeks ago, we had the, Commissioner Thompson asked us to dust off the home rehab program, so we did that. We sent out invitations for people to apply for those funds. I indicated that at the 17th, or that at this meeting, we would bring those who have applied successfully. And so far, it's 100%. We've had 2 applications, and both meet the criteria. So you can see under the request of the issue that we've given you the property addresses, the type of work to be done, and the amount requested, and we're recommending approval for both of those. That would be $6,000 of the $10,000 available. We have some other projects that folks have requested to do a second project if there were funds left over. If we have any of those or we get any new ones, we'll bring that to you, because I think your intention is to exhaust the $10,000 rather than leave it set. So when we get those, we'll bring them to you.
Any questions for Alan?
No, I'm just glad to see people starting to use this program.
So we need to just give you a motion to proceed with it. I'll entertain a motion.
So moved. Second.
I have a motion by Commissioner Howard, second by Commissioner Ferris. Any questions or concerns? Mary Earl.
Yes.
Yes.
Howard,
Yes.
Brumbault,
Yes.
Garcia.
Yes, thank you. Okay, we move on to item E, pest control bid award. Ellen?
Periodically, we bid these types of things. You can see that I included the two bid tabulation sheets for you. Pestaway LLC was the low bid. We're recommending to approve the pest control bid for 2 years. The annual cost is $55,1940. We've worked with them previously. Parks and Rec said they do a good job and like working with them.
Well, I make a motion, we approve it with Pestaway for $55,1940.
I have a motion on the floor by Commissioner Ferris to approve the pest control bid award to Pestaway for $55.19. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a second by Commissioner Howard. Any questions or concerns? Mary, read the roll.
Ferris,
Yes.
Howard,
Yes.
Brumbault,
Yes.
Thompson,
Yes.
Garcia.
Yes, thank you. Okay, we move on to item F, code enforcement mowing bid award. Ellen?
On an as-needed basis, we hire someone to mow properties that require it, that they can do it themselves or they neglect to do it. And when we have to enforce the property standard, we have someone mow. We put out a bid for mowing services. You have the two bid sheets attached, and we're recommending the Gilmer bid. Bid is for $5,000 on an annual basis at an hourly rate, up to $5,000. That's what we have budgeted for it. So we may use less or all of that.
Well, we appreciate the work that Nancy does, for the city, and she comes in at a low bid, so I will entertain a motion to accept the Nancy Gilmer mowing rate of $30 an hour.
Make a motion, we accept Nancy's bid for $30 an hour.
Have a motion on the floor by Commissioner Ferris. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Have a second by Commissioner Thompson. Any questions or concerns? Mary, read the roll.
Thompson,
Yes.
Ferris,
Yes.
Howard,
Yes.
Brumbault,
Yes.
Garcia.
Yes, thank you. We move on to item G under the street improvement bid award. Before we turn this over to Alan, I was contacted by Matt Miller of Miller Construction and Todd Weibel in regards to the bidding program, and the bid for score is $814,946. Miller came in at $820,807. We do have a rule that if it comes within a 10%, I did the math, and actually Miller Construction is in 1% difference in the amount of $58.61, and so that is a decision that the commission needs to. Is there anything that you would want to allude and say?
Well, we are of the opinion, we had this same question when we opened the bids, and we are of the opinion, we did not make this decision immediately. We went back and we did some checking on the bid in this KDOT contract and so forth. Two things, it's not specified in the KDOT contract, and there are two sections in there. Commissioner Thompson called me this morning. I sent that language to him. Unfortunately, I don't have that at my fingertips. Do you?
I can get it pretty quick.
And the second thing is, my understanding is that if that is going to be a part of the decision process, then that has to be upfront stipulated in the bid documents, and in this case it was not. And I'll let Andrew explain this further, because I asked this question and he did the investigation on this.
Yeah, so Like Alan said, we looked into this after the bid opening because it was such a tight bid. Typically, you'd have something like this, a local preference in the bidding documents. That's not typically something that we put in our bidding documents just because we're working with other organizations, cost sharing in these grant programs, providing funds for these projects. There is, and I can tell Commissioner Thompson's probably looking right at it, verbatim. I believe it does state in there that the LPA shall award to the bid to the lowest
can-
responsible bidder.
It does. I can read it if you want.
If you wouldn't mind, yeah, sorry, I don't have that in front of me.
Okay, it says the LPA shall let the contract for the project and shall award the contract to the lowest responsible bidder upon concurrence in the award by the secretary, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
Right. And that's what we found, and again, that was in the cost share agreement between the city and the state, if I'm correct. So, and we also have in our bidding documents, I believe it states something, the city will determine the lowest responsible responsive bidder. So,
It's kind of a precarious situation. I would only say as mayor that in future bids that staff, make sure that that is noted in there, that there in the event that there's a 10% discrepancy, that we're allowed, to give it, to the bidder as long as he falls into that 10%. We would have known that, we could have,
Well, and
Yes.
I don't even know in this case if that would have been available to us because of the cost sharing with the state entity. We may be precluded from doing that under certain parameters regardless.
something we need to research for sure.
But anything local, it's just us, obviously we put that.
and that's something we kind of discussed too, we'd start asking that question.
Yeah.
As we got into these grant programs and got to the bidding portion of the project too.
And just
So-
to, I guess just to clarify, we haven't actually said here, but it's the contract with KDOT it's an 85-15 grant sharing program. So there's
That's
states offering up 85% of the cost, and we only have 15 as long as we follow their contract guidelines.
And that's just for construction.
Yeah.
Now, design and the inspection piece was 100% on the city.
Yeah.
15% was also city on the construction side. So you'll see in the bid tab, we broke it up. It's all one project, but we broke it up for the fact there were two reasons. One, the county's participation in Second Street, being able to break those numbers out equally. And then the second piece of it was timeline. Second Street really could be done, we said any time up to November 30th this year. And the state would have liked to see the project done this year entirely, but because of some of the delay in the contracts coming down from the state, they allowed us to extend 17th Street to June 1st, making sure that we stay out of harvest, wheat, and corn. So, and talking to Schooler Grain, that's one thing we wanted to make sure of. So,
Any kind of idea what the design and construction will run on the project?
design, we are, I believe, 11,500 less. I told Mary I sent the last invoice instead of 61.5. I think we're 50. Inspection, who knows? I think whenever we first came in and said that, that's kind of a unknown. Obviously, we have a worst case scenario in there, but I don't believe we'll come anywhere near it. So, and I have kept Rod Blake informed since he's kind of been the one overseeing the Second Street project and let him know of their costs. So up to this point,
And that would be a 50-50 between city and the county.
that's correct. So 15% on Second Street and then 50-50 on that.
Mm.
So.
We go with sport, looks like,
Entertain a
so
motion.
make that motion, and go with sport.
Contingent upon Secretary of Department of Transportation
Right.
approval. Yes. Just want to make sure that was in there. I know
Yeah.
Aaron had read that, but yeah.
Have a motion on the floor by Commissioner Ferris. Do I have a second?
Second.
Have a second by Commissioner Thompson. Any questions or concerns? Mary Throw.
Howard,
Yes.
Ferris,
Yes.
Thompson,
Yes.
Rumbaugh,
Yep.
Garcia.
Yes. Okay, we go on to item H.gov domain registration. Josh, you want to take this?
Evening. So this is to register a new domain with the .gov extension, primarily for security. The .gov is better for email security, better for web security, things like that, more trusted, etc. As of April 26th, they've now started waiving the fees to register these. Previously, it was $400 per year to register this domain. So, in order to actually get it, we have to have the governing body sign off on it. So that's why I'm here tonight.
Any questions for Josh?
No, I mean, I think it'd be great to finally get a .gov
Yeah.
site.
Yeah. On the application, it says physical impacts, none at this time. Do you foresee anything in your expertise?
It's federal government regulated. At this point, they've waived the fees. They can come back at any time. Although, from what I've read so far, it's not likely. But there is always that possibility that a new administration comes in and they go, you know what, we're going to start making all these small entities start paying for this again.
Yeah.
So,
Are the .govs have to be annual renewals? Can you get?
just like a regular domain name, it is once a year. Standard domains, you can spread it out 2, 3, 5, 10 years. .gov is not that way because it has to be through the federal government, or the only way you can get this.
Okay.
And you intend to keep the city of Goodland domain for a while, right?
Yes, what my goal is once I get, because there's a lot of back end stuff I'll have to do to get this domain up and running, transfer emails, etc. We'll keep the cityofgoodland.org for probably 2 to 3 years at least, while we get everything migrated over and stuff like that, and then creating aliases and all kinds of fun stuff on the back end.
Okay. Any questions for Josh, sir? If not, I'll entertain a motion to accept the .go domain registration. So moved. Have a motion by Commissioner Brombach. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Second by Commissioner Thompson. Any questions? Mary, read the roll.
Yes.
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 Thompson,
Yes.
Garcia.
Yes. Thanks, Josh.
Thank you.
You'll give me those things so I can sign them, right?
Yeah, well,
Okay. All right. Okay, we move on to item 6, discussion items. Item A, prohibited dog breeds. Ellen.
You asked me to return to you with a recommendation or a path forward on prohibited dog breeds. Animals are addressed in a number of places. In section 2202, it talks about animal control, which means you have to have your dog tethered, confined to the premises, if it's a voice command, a leash or whatever. So it addresses that. In section 2206, it talks about noisy and destruction of property. In section 207, it talks about animal bite procedures generally. And probably most importantly, in section 219, it addresses vicious animals. And I think my thought moving forward was you repeal Division 2 in its entirety, which is sections 231 through 240, and you allow the other sections, including section 2219, vicious animals, to govern. And the section on prohibited dog breeds was added in, 2013, I believe?
Yeah.
And so it's not that old of a section. Denver has repealed its prohibited breeds. Commerce City, Colby does not have one. Burlington does not have one. So I think it's consistent with sort of the the recent track in removing those kind of prohibitions and letting your vicious animals and all of those other sections regulate this.
That would be a simple fix.
Yeah, so the next step,
Cover.
is I just bring an ordinance that repeals that section in its entirety,
Mhm.
and you'd adopt that, and the other section would take
Right.
over.
I was against it in 2013 at Reed Pacific, and I'd like to make a motion.
Well, he's gonna bring it back for, it's under discussion, so he'll bring it back formally.
If that's what everybody wants.
Yeah, yeah.
Y'all good with that?
But I think it's a good, we're gonna say something? I think it's a good move. It's a simplified way of fixing it, and it'll address everybody else's questions and concerns. I'm sure we'll get some feedback from them. Okay, we move on to item B, PowerPoint. Alan?
The city's been approached by a company, it's a leasing company that leases cell phone towers from providers like Verizon, AT&T, and T-Mobile. You know, there are really only three tier 1 providers at this time, and those are those three. We have one on our tower with our local communications radios and other things, but in the conversation, those things would remain. The proposal is pretty simple. The proposer would buy the ground lease from Verizon for a determined amount, which I have written down, which is $50,000. They make their money by adding additional providers to the tower, either AT&T, T-Mobile, or smaller regional providers. We then would get 50% of the new revenue. So I've done a little current lease on the second page that shows you what would happen under our current lease and what our potential income would be. Of course, there is a risk to this. The risk is that there's no additional providers added to the tower, but it seems pretty simple to me that they wouldn't be making this proposal if they didn't think they were going to add somebody to the tower. Even if we didn't, the tower still remains whole financially for the next 8.3 years at $50,000. And in 8.3 years, technology-wise, who knows if that tower is going to be obsolete or if it's still going to be functional. So there is a risk involved in this. And so I want to get your direction. If this is something that you are would entertain, then I will bring back a formal lease and a proposal to you to consider.
Well, I'd like to see some definite numbers. For sure, you've got an illustration here under the current, under 20 years, we reap 120,000, right?
That's a sure thing.
Yeah. And up front by this new interested party, would pay you 50,000.
Right. That's the risk.
That's, yeah. And if they pay you 12,000, that equates up to about $290,000, but it could go higher than that. So, to me, I think, in order to be able to have some definite, structure, we would need to know what those definite numbers,
Well, those are the definite numbers. If you added one carrier or two carriers, those are the difference in the numbers. And actually, that is an error on my part. That number would be halved.
Mhm.
So we get 50% of that additional income. But still, it would outperform the 120,000, which is a sure thing.
But he wants a contract that we don't bring anybody else on the tower, right? Because he'll be in charge of that.
Well,
No,
they lease the tower space. This is
Yeah.
the ground lease.
Yeah.
We're getting ground lease, but if they add to the tower, we get additional ground lease money.
Okay.
Because they have to rent their space as well. He said the going price in those towers is about $2,000 a month.
Any questions?
No, I think it's something we should definitely look into.
Yeah.
Sounds like a win-win.
Yeah. All right, we can do that. Come bring it back. Okay, so we go on to item 7, reports, item A, city manager. Ellen?
I only have a couple of things. Today we received the first draft of the interlocal merger agreement for the fire department. We're reviewing that. Jake has it. Brian has reviewed it. I'm reviewing it. And we probably have a few things that we're interested in changing with them right off the get-go. So we'll do that. And then when we get a little further along, next step, we'll bring that to you for your review. And we should get rolling. It looks like, optimistically, we could have this done by July or so. And then I just wanted to mention the cleanup this weekend, or this week, Thursday and Friday. Going to be out and about collecting, so you can look on the website or the newsletter. The prohibitions are on there, the times are on there. So put your stuff out and we'll pick it up. That's all I have for tonight. Unless you have questions.
Any questions? I visited with Alan and I told, in regards to that particular contract, and as soon as, you find out, the concerns and language, mail those things to the commissioners so that they can have plenty of time to look at them and study and have questions, when we meet.
I also forgot to mention that on Monday the 10th, we are meeting with KMEA regarding an offering to us potentially of electric service. And last week we met with Prairie Land. So we're moving those discussions along.
Will Sam be here?
Yes, he will. I'll talk to you about, he said he wanted to see you or meet you or.
Oh, okay. That's fine. Well, I talked to him a lot, so anyway. Okay, so that's all. Any questions for Alan? All right, we move on to Commissioner's report. Start with JD.
I don't really have anything, just thanks for the department head reports and the work that went into those, so appreciate that.
I don't have anything.
Just thanks to all the employees, they do a good job.
Jared?
Well, they're busy across the street with me on the Topside Manor, so it's looking good. No quietness.
Good. On Mayor's report, just one of the things that I was looking at is the reports. You got reports from Mary Volk on staff, Kenton Peak on streets, Justin DeDore on electric production and distribution, Sammy Wendell on museum, Josh on IT, Leanne Taylor on municipal court, Chief Frankie Hayes on the police department, Ben Tracy on parks, Neil Plum work on water and wastewater, and Brian Jennings on fire and building. Thank you guys for what you do. If you have time, go over those lists, and it shows you. I mean, they are extremely busy. So, thanks for what you do.
And the pictures.
And the pictures.
Looks better every time.
Yeah. The tower's in pretty good shape, aren't they? You said, Neil, they need some work up there.
We've got some major issues with some towers, and we're on a contract right now to where if they do extra work outside of cleanings and maintenance, they would get paid for it. So why aren't these things being done? And those questions are going to be answered in the near future. Because if you look at the concrete around the legs on the power plant tower, then we're in bad shape, and they have been for a long time. And why something hasn't been done until now? And the gap around the roof, you can't have that.
Yeah.
Can't be a gap in there. So there are some major issues going on with our towers that need to be addressed immediately.
Good, good. Well, work with
We're
that.
entertaining other maintenance mechanisms.
Okay. Good. So if there's not any questions for the department heads, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
I have a motion by Commissioner Brombaugh. Have a second by Commissioner Ferris. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. See you at the next meeting. Thank you, guys.